This is why she wasn't losing weight.
I worked out every day for a year and just lost 10 pounds. I've been
More than 1 million Puerto Ricans are still without power after Hurricane Fiona hit the island on Sunday afternoon. Now, the storm washed away, look at this, washed away this bridge as it made landfall just days before the fifth anniversary of Hurricane Maria. Well, Fiona is now a tropical storm, but it is still battering the island with heavy rains and then, of course, causing those catastrophic flash floods.
Emergency teams are still actively rescuing trapped people, saving at least 1,000 already. Hundreds of FEMA workers are on the ground following President Biden's emergency declaration. The president is assuring Puerto Rico, we stand with you and we will get through this together. CNN's Leila Santiago is live in San Juan, where the rising water, we understand, is the major concern. Leila, what are you seeing around you?
Well, listen, in San Juan, we're in the northeastern part of the island, so it's a bit of a different situation from what they're continuing to see, rather, on the southwestern part of the island. And let's not forget the interior part of the island, which really usually sees a lot of damage when it comes to natural disasters related to weather anyway. And so I know Victor showed that video of the bridge that was washed away. I actually talked to a young man who was there last night when that happened. He told me that he was just looking outside his window and that it happened in a matter of minutes. This morning, I was in the southern part of the island, managed to get into Salinas. Salinas, again, right there on the south, kind of central eastern part of the island. And I got to tell you, there is a lot of concern and frustration among the people I talked to. I want you to listen to an exchange I had with a gentleman there. He's a resident and a business owner from Salinas. Listen.
A lot of people, more than Maria, lost their houses now, lost everything on their houses because the floating. The Maria was tough winds, but this one, with all the rain, it just destroyed everything on the houses. It's unbelievable. It's our town. It's a small town that basically, who's going to take care of this town? Nobody. You know what I'm saying? If we don't take care of it, nobody's going to take care of it.
And that's the sentiment that I heard echoed by several different people, especially when I went to the shelter. I talked to the mayor there. She said they have more than 2,500 families that are impacted by this flooding right now that just doesn't stop, because the remnants of now Tropical Storm Fiona are continuing to pound this island. And so it's not just the flooding, it's not just the mudslides that we saw on the main highway that we watched as crews were trying to get control of that. It's also water. 60% of customers here, give or take, don't have water. Part of that not available because they depend on power to get that water. And so power, the majority of the island is without power right now. Now, they have been able to restore a small bit of that, but the power is what causes a lot of anxiety that adds to the anxiety from the floods and the images that you're starting to see, because let's not forget the timing here. Tomorrow will be 5 years since Hurricane Maria came and destroyed this island and left many here without power for months. Victor and Allison.
Left them without power and with a lot of anxiety after the storm approached. Leila Santiago reporting from San Juan. Thank you so much.
So in addition to the hundreds of FEMA workers on the ground, Puerto Rico's governor says California, New York, and New Jersey are also sending in people to help.
When it comes to the island's infrastructure and power grid, officials say they are much better prepared to respond to this crisis compared to the one brought by Hurricane Maria 5 years ago. Craig Fugate is a former FEMA administrator. Craig, good to see you again. I want to ask you about what we heard from the man that Leila just spoke about. He said for his small town, this is worse than Maria. As we look across the island and all of the other variables, is this worse than Maria?
Well, the flooding is going to be worse. If you remember, Maria was primarily winds. So where we have these communities that all this flooding is taking place, you're seeing it blow out the roads, you're seeing it, destroy the buildings. Road infrastructure is going to be heavily impacted again. So where the flooding is taking place, it's probably as bad, if not worse than Maria. But I don't think we're going to see that level of devastation over the entire island, similar to the wind damage we saw from Maria.
Oh, that said, Craig, I mean, we all remember 5 years ago how long we had to report on the power outages because of Maria. I mean, it went on for months and months. In some places, they didn't restore it for 11 months. So now it's been 5 years. And have they shored up their grid since, 1.3 million customers today are without power? I mean, what's the status of the power grid on Puerto Rico?
Well, we're about to find out. They had done a lot of rebuilding. Some of that was done really quickly after the storm to get power on, and they were going to go back and do more permanent work. So this is an example that, as we saw from Hurricane Katrina, as we're seeing now from Hurricane Maria, rebuilding takes years, if not decades. And so how much has been done, what worked? What I'm really concerned about on this grid is we had a lot of new energy sources put in the system. We're seeing damage to solar arrays. Also, a big limiting factor after Maria was the condition of the road so that the repair crews could even get in to, to make the replaced power lines. You're seeing bridges washed out, roads washed out. So unfortunately, I think we're going to see a lot of those similar things. What we still need to wait and see is how much of the grid has been directly impacted by winds, where that was so widespread in Maria, or is this more isolated and they can make those repairs and get power turned back on to large areas?
They can't go through this every couple of years. I know you're an advocate for, and we have discussed building a more resilient infrastructure. We talked about it in the context of the contiguous 48. But for Puerto Rico, what needs to happen so that the next time at Cat 1, even with this amount of rain, that it's not as disastrous as we're seeing it is?
Well, we've seen some things that were repaired after Maria that were temporary, that hadn't been permanently repaired, get washed away. It's important that when we rebuild after these disasters, we're building for the future, not what's happened in the past. And we're going to have to understand that what happened in Maria was a lot of wind over large areas. Some of these communities that are flooding hadn't had that in Maria. So we're still uncovering that where we have people living in those communities, when we go back and rebuild, we got to build back against all the threats of these storms. It isn't just wind, as we're seeing with this storm, it is water. And in Puerto Rico, we have seen a lot of deaths, people being rescued. And the issue you're raising is the insanity of going back and putting it back the way it was isn't working. We've got to really focus on making the investments of where we're going to rebuild, how we're going to rebuild, because the climate has changed. How we've been building and developing hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah. Craig Fugate, thank you for helping us understand what we're seeing there today.
It is okay to be so strong.
Tonight, Fiona pounding Turks and Caicos with 115-mile-per-hour winds and up to 8 feet of storm surge after tearing through the Dominican Republic. Its wake, destruction across Puerto Rico, an island reeling from yet another deadly blow. Gabriela Colon Arzola fled her home with her 2 young children as the floodwaters from Fiona rushed in.
Estaban bien preocupados y tuvimos que salir, el agua no llegaba a las rodillas, tuvimos que salir para la parte afuera para poder escapar de esto.
She lives in southern Puerto Rico, which was hit hard by the latest hurricane to ravage the island.
Jamás y nunca pensé, esto parecía un río, una laguna, bajaban nevera, secadora, bajaba de todo.
She returned home this morning to survey the damage.
Gracias a Dios que tenemos vida, que es lo importante, lo demás es material, poco a poco no se recupera.
Minerva Marquez Villalongo was luckier. Her home was flooded but spared.
Everything she owns now, she's moved it up here into these bags. She had to protect it from the floodwaters that came inside of her house.
The 81-year-old has several medical conditions. She'll stay with her daughter until power is restored, happy to have family to lean on. Millions of Puerto Ricans are struggling after the Category 1 hurricane wreaked havoc on an already beleaguered island. As much as 30 inches of rain have fallen in some areas already. Up to 4 inches more are expected tonight. Officials say at least 4 people have died. That number is expected to rise. In Utuado, the central mountainous region, raging floodwaters from the storm destroyed this temporary bridge built after Hurricane Maria wiped out the previous one in 2017. This is what it looks like today.
I just feel trapped because the other way is broken too, so we have to go around.
The American territory has been devastated by 3 powerful storms in 5 years, leaving its citizens desperate for essentials like food, electricity, and running water. The devastation from Fiona laying bare the lingering infrastructure problems that have plagued the island for years, even after billions of dollars and vows to improve the fragile power grid after Hurricane Maria. According to FEMA, 1.18 million customers still don't currently have working electricity. That's 80% of the island.
The situation is a disaster. Enough is enough. The Puerto Rican Energy Bureau must push PREPA and LUMA not only to restore power, but to once and for all create a distributed, more resilient grid.
LUMA, which took over the national power grid last year, says they have restored power to 300,000 customers and expect more people to have electricity in the coming days.
This crew from Luma Energy is working on some damaged power lines here in San Juan. Take a look up at the bucket truck. They tell me this is happening across all of Puerto Rico.
Omar Marrero is Puerto Rico's Secretary of State.
Right now, obviously, we're in the middle of the hurricane path, Victor. So every single time that a tropical storm comes or the hurricane comes, will hit the energy grid. It happens. And even though after Maria, the system was restored by the Army Corps, it was not permanently fixed.
In 2017, Hurricane Maria ravaged the island, a Category 4 with 155 mile-per-hour winds, battering the island. Some residents were left without electricity for nearly a year. More than 3,000 people died, the deadliest hurricane in modern U.S. history.
What's out there is total devastation, total annihilation, people literally gasping for air.
After Hurricane Maria damaged 80% of the island's power grid, $3.2 billion was spent trying to fix it. Congress earmarked $10 billion to rebuild the system. 5 years later, the island was supposed to be more prepared for a storm like Fiona, but it wasn't.
So you still have confidence in Luma?
I still have confidence on Luma, the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, the water utility, all agencies that are collaborating right now, because this is not only the government. When we're talking about the disaster strikes and the response and the recovery, it's a unified command. It's a unity of purpose.
Puerto Rico has suffered through power outages for years, blackouts hitting the island even when there are no storms. The problem so entrenched in daily life, Puerto Rican megastar Bad Bunny just released this 23-minute music video documentary about the failures of Puerto Rico's power grid.
Right now, is there a realistic timeline for when power might be restored?
There's still some raining happening across the island, so it has to be safe. So they haven't finalized their damages assessment. I think that we have to be cognizant of the fact that this is a very complex disaster operation.
The island is still very much a disaster zone. Coast Guard helicopters assessing the damage Monday, the storm upending lives. In the hard-hit south, Ruben Ramos and his mother Onelia called 911 at midnight.
The water, she says that the water was running just like this, but inside of her house.
But firefighters couldn't reach them for 7 hours.
What was it like when the firefighters arrived? ¿Cómo sintieron cuando los bomberos llegaron?
Oh,
Felicidad, que estamos a salvo.
Felicidad, you were happy, you were relieved.
Happy.
Hopefully, we'll get the same support that we have gotten so far from the Biden-Harris administration to make sure that we can make great progress, to make sure that in the next hurricane, the next storm, we're in a better shape.
Kelsey Ryan is a community aid worker who splits her time between Puerto Rico and New York. 5 years ago, she worked to send supplies to the island in the wake of Maria's devastation. Yet she says little has changed since 2017.
This is not just repeating itself, it's repeating itself even worse, because now these people already had nothing. A lot of them already had Maria damage on their homes.
Puerto Rico is uniquely vulnerable to hurricanes and is also uniquely unprepared to cope with storm damage.
Storms are normal in the Caribbean. Puerto Rico seems to always take the brunt of the hits. So at this point, there should be some type of system or structure implemented.
Puerto Ricans picking up the pieces and rebuilding once again.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, was fair use. As I mentioned before, I don't want to linger too much into the whole thing about what's going on with the storm and the floodings, all of that, because those kind of hit a raw nerve. I mean, I know that I haven't been living in the island for a number of years, but I did live through a couple of hurricanes myself. And the thing is that they are becoming these storms, all of these dangerous storms and hurricanes. They're becoming a little bit more. They're becoming a little more frequent, because at least the way that it used to be when I was growing up is that you might get a major storm, or a hurricane. You will get hit with one every couple of decades or something. I mean, the storms will be more normal, and there has always been, as long as I have been alive, there has always been somewhat of a vulnerability when it comes to the power grid. But it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. It's just that it's been in the last number of years, because especially since it's been privatized, as crazy as it sounds, when it was the AEE, which was the local authority, the local power authority, which was more government run, it actually was better. I'm not saying perfect, but it was actually better, because I remember when I lived through Hugo. That was in 1989. That was another hurricane that hit back then. I remember that we were out of power for like a week or so. But then again, I was in the capital, so that was easier fix there. I wasn't in the countryside. People that were more in the countryside were more severely affected, and especially those that were living in kind of like lower areas, because you got hills. There are hills, and there are valleys, hills and valleys. So there are areas that have more of a propensity, more vulnerable to flooding. That's how it is in the island. It's not a flat surface, and it was a bit more vulnerable, and in metropolitan, in greater San Juan, it was a little easier to manage, so we wouldn't be too long without access without access to electricity. And back then, we will still have phone lines and landlines that wouldn't be affected, or we will have running water. Actually, that wouldn't be affected. So it wasn't so bad. It's just that it seems that when it comes to the utilities, it's just deteriorating, and it's not giving chance. It's not giving chance for things to be upgraded now, because these storms and hurricanes are being kind of like more frequent, and it's being problematic. It's being problematic, but hopefully it can be. It can get better now that there are people on the island that are protesting. There are people in the diaspora that are also mobilizing, particularly in the Northeast, which is something that I'm always grateful for. And they seem to be mobilizing and kind of like ringing the alarm when it comes to the situation on the island. I'm gonna be dropping the links soon. Let me go through the comments. Yes. I just wanted to. I don't want that to be kind of like a sad thing, but it is the reality. It's not so much a happy thing what is going on right now, and my thoughts are with my peoples on the island and the family that I have remaining. That's what I'm thinking about. I was able to contact them, and they are doing okay. Fortunately, they are in the part of the island that they live is more towards the kind of like metropolitan, which is kind of like more flat, and it's not so. It doesn't have that much propensity for floodings. Floodings can still happen, but in this situation, it's more of a thing with the what's happening towards the southern part of the island, because of the trajectory of Fiona. The 18th letter. What's going on? Yeah, Don Jose. Let's see. Going through the comments. Yes, hit the like. Hit the like. Yeah, I'm gonna be sharing the link. This isn't only about what's going on with the hurricane. This is open topics also. So let me see. I just dropped the link. Hit it up. In the meantime, let's see what we have here. Let's see. I'm looking at this. Let me see if I can get the. Let me hit the share. Let's see.
At Amazon, we're investing $1.2 billion in free technical training for hourly
Okay, let me see if I can
helping
skip
them to advance
this.
into higher paying jobs within Amazon.
My salary has increased probably around 3 to 4 times.
All right.
Victor Okenda, who's live in Puerto Rico for us this morning. Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Robin. The lights are coming back on in some spots here, but not where we are in Toa Baja. More than 1 million customers are without power. This is 4 days now, and they're beginning the cleanup process. Once again, these people starting all over. This morning, Hurricane Fiona is a monster of a storm, becoming a Category 4 hurricane with winds of 130 miles per hour as it marches north. Its wrath leaving behind a deadly trail of destruction. Overnight, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services declaring a public health emergency in Puerto Rico as the flooding impact worsens. The now Category 4 killing at least 4 people in Puerto Rico, dropping nearly 30 inches of relentless rain in parts of the U.S. territory. The damage surveyed from Coast Guard helicopters showing catastrophic remnants. This car nearly submerged in polluted water. All of Puerto Rico lost power when Hurricane Fiona hit. This crew from Luma Energy is working on repairing some damaged power lines in San Juan. Take a look up at the bucket truck. They tell me this is happening across the entire island. The company expects a large part of the island to have electricity back by today. But 81-year-old Minerva Marquez Villalongo is patiently waiting. Everything she owns now, she's moved it up here into these bags. She had to protect it from the floodwaters that came inside of her house. Fortunately, she has her daughter she can stay with. We were here when Hurricane Maria hit, back again a few years later when earthquakes rocked the island. Puerto Ricans have been making the best out of a bad situation for a long time now. They are incredibly resilient and resourceful. Robin, Fiona is not going to change that.
But you're right, they are resilient and resourceful. We are thinking of all that have been impacted by Fiona. Thank you, Victor.
Yeah, that's kind of, it seems to be what's going on now. What seems to be the situation now. Yeah. Hey, Morena, what's going on? Yeah, hit that like, hit that like. Hey, GG, what's going on? Guys, feel free to hit the link. Put it in the chat. Let me make sure. Yeah. I'm going to be bringing my guest. What's going on, Rakim?
Shout out to my boy Ramon. You know I had to come up here and show you some support, man.
Yes, appreciate it you coming by. It's just that I know that it's kind of like a bit somber, given what I'm kind of streaming about. It's just that that what the situation is basically what I have been thinking about the last few days. The last couple of days, I mean, before that, I was kind of busy because I had a visitor, so I was dedicating my time to the company that I was keeping. But the last couple of days, last few days, I mean, it's just kind of seeing the imagery and being worried, and hopefully this disasters kind of like really bring home the reality for what's going on with some of my peoples on the island. And let's see what's going to happen when it comes to the response, the response that is going to be from the local authorities and the local government. And again, something that I'm always grateful is when it comes to the diaspora, they seem to be mobilizing. They're mobilizing and they're raising the alarm, and they're actually letting people here on the mainland about what's going on. Me myself, and being in contact with my remaining relatives on the island, making sure that they're okay. They know, of course, if there is something that I can help them out with, they can contact me, and we can see what we do. But so far, they seem to be doing okay. And well, I mean, it's like I was saying before. I have dealt with a couple of these hurricanes myself when I was growing up, but it's just that these storms are becoming just a little bit more common, and that's something that those kind of like makes me a little bit upset because I know the feeling. But I had it a little bit easier because I was living in a place where I wasn't dealing with the floodings. I mean, I was dealing with a lot of rain and maybe damage to the house, but it wasn't. I wouldn't be losing the whole roof, which is what's happening to some of my fellow Puerto Ricans on the island. They're living in houses that are a little bit more vulnerable to very strong winds, and they can easily get their roofing all ripped off, because not all houses on the island are made of concrete. And even though the walls of a house can be made of concrete, sometimes the roofing may not be made of concrete. It may be made of thin roofing that is fastened and assembled, supposedly strong enough to withstand some winds. But hurricane winds is like another ball game. And some or maybe the roofing is made of wood. There are a few houses. There are some houses that are also put together like that. So hopefully this is something that doesn't set back too much the recovery of the island, because islanders were already recovering from Maria. I mean, a hurricane hadn't hit the island like that in decades. Other hurricanes have gone by the island and brought in a lot of wind and a lot of rain, but Maria went right straight through it in a diagonal trajectory. I'm just really is keeping it in my best wishes for the island and my peoples on the island, that they can recover, and they hold the local authorities accountable, and let them know that you're gonna have to get to work. We're gonna recover, yes, but I just don't want the resident commissioner to start talking about statehood. Like that's not. I don't want her to start talking with that shit. Jennifer Gonzalez. I don't want her to start talking that whole statehood crap. But we'll see. Let me shut up. Hakeem, what are your thoughts?
No, I definitely agree with you 100%, because what we see is that usually when disasters happen, and it don't matter whether it's on the islands or here in the States, people use that as an opportunity to push a narrative.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what Ms. Gonzalez may do. So don't be surprised, because they're going to use a lot of people, the government officials on the island, is going to use this as an opportunity to push for statehood and say, see, this is why we need statehood, even though that has nothing to do with that, and it'll end up screwing the people over even more, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the way these politicians do. They lie and they manipulate, and then they look for opportunities to take advantage of tragic situations to be able to, you know, push their own agenda.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. But now is not the time. Now is not
No,
the
no, I
time.
don't
They
think I don't
really.
think the people want to hear it. I don't think the people want to
No,
hear
no,
it.
no. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they make it very clear. Like you need to let go of the statehood talk, because Jennifer Gonzalez, she was doing that after Maria. She was pushing the whole statehood thing and traveling to to Washington D.C. to push the whole statehood thing. People were going through through needs and on the island, and here comes Jennifer Gonzalez with her fat ass pushing for statehood. I mean, not understand. The thing is that they know the whole thing about statehood. That's not really going to happen. They have been her party, her political party, the PNP, they have been pushing that since like what 1968, if not before that, and it hasn't happened. And there is a reason why it's not happening. Yeah, those conversations take place when communities are in dire stress. Yeah, Morena, that's true. And they
That's
do
what I
that.
say. It's a pattern. It's a pattern, no matter where you are, because Miss Gonzalez's opportunity is to get in good with the elite to make sure her palms is greased. She's not caring about the island of Puerto Rico.
No. She cares more about maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if she had used um, public money, public funds to fund her wedding. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time a government official did that. For those that don't remember, a little over 20 years ago, by the year 2000, we actually had a female governor, but she was for the opposition party. The what is called locally the Democratic Party. They are the ones that want things to stay the way they are. And we had a female governor, and the only two things that I remember her doing were remodeling the Fortaleza, which is the governor's residence, and the other thing that she did was getting married on Fortaleza's grounds. Those are the only two things that I remember her doing. But it's like, what about governance? What did she do? What were her accomplishments? I don't think that she did anything. I still remember because at that time there hadn't been a female governor, and I remember a woman that I was working with when she got elected. She was saying, "Well, she's only gonna follow the wishes of her party. She's just gonna be doing more of the same that their party was doing," and she was right. Which was nothing, next to nothing. And that's what we got. She didn't run for a second term because her first term was a disaster, and what followed was kind of like still more of the same. I mean, gender didn't matter. If they're not gonna be doing crap, then they didn't do crap. So and what happened after Ricky Rosselló, who should have been in prison. Those that know what he did back in the 90s, that he was four-wheeling and ran over somebody, got into an accident where somebody was killed. He should have been in prison for that. But he was the son of the governor of the time, and he himself then becomes governor, and he's pushed out, he's ousted out of office. But then the woman Wanda Vasquez, who became the interim governor, just did more of the corruption in just like a year and a half, and she still got in trouble with the feds. I hate that we can't do that regulation ourselves. I hate that we need to have the feds show up and clean up messes for us. I mean, it's like I'm always saying that we're not having any we're not having discipline when it comes to the government officials, and at least when it comes to the local constitution. So something is gonna have to be put in place. Something is gonna have to be amended when it comes to the local laws, so to prevent the government officials and the legislators to keep them from robbing the island blind, because there is always funding, there is always money, but not for what is needed. But the legislators, I don't know if they still have that much power to raise their own salaries. I mean, of course, they're going to be lining up their pockets. So it's just it's
Yeah,
a
it's
bit of
so
a mess.
much. It's so much corruption. It's enough to make your head spin. Because you
Yeah.
ask yourself, when does it stop? And the funny thing is, they sit right there in your face and continue to lie to you, like you don't see what's going on. And that's what they have done to the people. My prayers are to the people on the island, because this is a situation where Puerto Rico is constantly trying to rebuild itself for one disaster after another.
Yeah.
And it's already a lot of people are already being displaced on the island due to gentrification and Americans coming in and buying up property. And so a lot of people are forced to move to the States. And even now, with people being in the States, some people are being forced to relocate down south because up north is being, brought up and gentrified, and all of the prices are going up.
Good
So
evening, fellas.
What's
good
going
evening,
on,
Don. How you
Armando?
doing today, brother?
Chilling.
Yeah.
Just coming back home from the gym. So, I just came here to check out how's everybody doing.
We're doing okay. We're doing okay. It's just that this is something that wasn't planned, and I know that I was kind of opening up the stream on a somewhat of a somber note, given what's going on my beloved little island. But also, I'm also worried about the damage that Fiona may have done to the Dominican Republic, to the easternmost
Yeah,
part, because
I was
there
going
is
to say that.
a
I mean,
Shout
peninsula.
out to the DR too.
I can't really say about the Dominican Republic, but I know that in my family's part, it hasn't done that much damage. And I know,
Yeah.
like in the north Puerto Plata, it didn't do any damage also.
Okay,
But I
that's
can't
good.
really talk about all the other parts of it. Did any damage to the Dominican Republic or not? But I know when it was going on, I was talking to my friend Patricia, and
Yeah.
it looks like it was just raining. So I can't really speak on that unless they're like, okay, certain parts were just damaged stuff. I did see some of the videos, but I can't really say which part it was in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my guess will be in the Punta Cana area where the peninsula is, and that's kind of like a more of a tourist area. So my guess is that there should have been a lot of rain there. Hopefully, a minimal amount of damage, but but I haven't talked to my friends that are in Santo Domingo that most likely didn't have to deal with anything, because in the my friends that are in the capital, that should be far away enough so that they didn't have to deal with any floodings. Maybe some rain, but rain is fairly common. I mean, I have been there and I have seen how much the downpour commonly happens. So that most likely they should be all right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just right now it's bad with the islands, especially between Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic with these hurricanes and everything. Because I remember when that hurricane hit Haiti, it's just like, man, like I don't really know much about the islands as far as living on there, but I know when you're surrounded by water, that does cause a more of effect with these hurricanes and different things like that. And it's just sad to see like this happening as far as these disasters, and constantly have to rebuild over and over again. and not even recovering from the last situation before this is taking place.
Yeah, yeah. My understanding is that it should have gone past the Turks and Caicos area, so hopefully it's not too. I'm looking at maps, trying to get my bearings as to what's going on, but it seems to be going up north. It should be past Turks and Caicos, so hopefully, when it hits there, I don't have any updates about the smaller islands to the north, but it should have been past that by now. So counting on it being better.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's man, my heart really goes out to the people on the islands right now. That's something that I cannot imagine. I've never, had to experience a hurricane, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But I can only, I can only imagine that it can be very, very stressful just losing everything.
Yeah. No, and the thing is that only is going to contribute to people migrating. People migrating from the island. Many of them most likely are going to end up somewhere in Florida. Of course, some of them may go to other parts of the country, but these are people that would rather be on the island. But if the situation, the conditions are not really for it, then not much that they can do. If they can migrate at least temporarily, then that's most likely what they're gonna do, and it will be understandable. But when it comes to the power and other utilities, I mean, there is gonna have to be a better source of urgency when it comes to getting things fixed back again. So, because Cuba, an island that is on an embargo, it recovers better. They actually have more of a plan in place, contingency plans in place, in case they are hit by a major storm and all of that. But then they actually do recover better, even though they are isolated. They are on this criminal embargo. That is just oppression. It's like sanction oppression.
Oh yeah, well Cuba has had a chokehold on their necks for God knows how long, due to the history of Fidel and Fidel standing up to the U.S. government and different things like that. So
I just saw something talking about oppression and everything like that. That now that the women up in Iran, they're taking off they're protesting and they're taking off their how should I say, their hijabs.
Mm-hmm.
I guess protesting the government right now. I don't know how true that is, but if that's the case, I'm all for it, because the Iranian government has been under a solid dictatorship for 40 something years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more exactly, to my understanding, since like 1979.
Yeah, so that'll be 43 years.
Right. Yeah, that was when the revolution happened, and it was a situation that was kind of set up for something, because that situation had been cooking up since the 50s. If you look up at the history, how Iran was actually more in step, more in pace with the rest of the world, and because the British wanted to have control of the Iranian oil, and they used basically they staged a coup, and they took the leader of office. They took him out of office. The leader at the time, his name was I don't remember the necessarily
Reza
the name.
Pahlavi.
Mohammed, I don't.
Reza Pahlavi, yeah, of the
Okay.
Pahlavi dynasty in Iran.
Yeah,
So,
and they had he had the popularity, but because they wanted to nationalize their own resources, and they didn't want the British panicked, and they got the United States to do their dirty work for them, and they took out the leader at the time, and they instituted the Shah. And the Shah was a puppet of the West. And he stayed there all the way until 79 when the Iranian Revolution happened. And the Shah was taken out of office. And that's when the Ayatollah, I don't know,
Khomeini.
The Khomeini took power and became the supreme leader. And since then, Iran has been sanctioned on top of sanction on top of sanction because they stood up to the West. I'm not saying that they're saints. That's not what I'm saying. But
I mean, if you actually look at it, it's like you have certain people that going into Iran because of, I guess they have double passports or whatever the case may be. That's the only reason I think I would use a double passport, just for that case. But other than that, that would be it.
Hey guys, I got to get ready to head out. Ramon, just wanted to stop through, show some support.
Yes.
Really quickly, I got to get ready to head to work, fellas. You guys take it easy. Once again,
Yeah,
prayers
I'm about
up for
to head in. I'm about to head
PR
in
and
home
DR.
also. So it's nice talking to you, Rakeem.
Nice talking to you too, Don. Shout out to my boy Ramon, and I got to get ready to head out, fellas.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
Do your thing. We'll talk again later soon.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Don Armando had to leave too. Yeah, this was kind of like a quick stream. I'm gonna be staying for a couple of minutes to say somebody else wants to come up. The link is in the chat. If not, then I guess I'm gonna close up because everybody's busy right now. Seems that's all right. We're gonna be doing more of this. Let's see. Wanted to see a little bit more of what's going on with the hurricane. I'm gonna be let me see if I can share this and do something with the okay. All right. Let me see if I can get something out of this. Okay. So it is past. Okay. This is kind of like the Weather Channel. So not much to see here. All right. All right then. Let's see, there isn't any. I was kind of looking for more updates as to what has been going on when it comes to the storm. In that case, if I can get any more to anyone else to come up and share their thoughts, then I'm gonna be closing up. This wasn't an impromptu stream, and it was just about sharing thoughts about the situation when it comes to the island. But maybe later on there's going to be another stream where we can touch on some other subjects. Let's see what happens later on during this week. This was Introvert Boricua, impromptu stream, Humpday. And until next time, take care.